All right, this is the week 7 check-in for The Artist's Way. Straight off the bat, a heaps better week than week 6. Immediately, like day 1 of doing the morning pages this week. Just so much was coming to the surface before I even started reading the chapter. So I'll get into all the morning pages stuff after. But yeah, just general thoughts and feelings towards week 7. I have been getting frustrated in terms of the progress. I feel like I should be creating something because I'm 7 weeks into this 12-week course. So I have this like feeling like I should be creating something, but like it doesn't feel like obviously I can create something at any moment, but it feels like there's still more like cleaning of house to be done, if that makes sense. There's been no real prompt as such or any task up until this point that's kind of asking you to create or to like, it doesn't really push you to create at all. This is more just still like digging in to the blockages and the recovery, I suppose. So I have been feeling a little bit frustrated in that regard, but I will persevere. So week 7 is about like changing our attitudes towards creativity, which has kind of been the entire point this whole time. It just says here on the front page that the emphasis is on your receptive as well as active skills. And the essays, exercises, and tasks aim at excavating areas of genuine creative interest as you connect with your personal dreams. I made a ton of notes this week, like a ton. And usually I don't start reading the chapter until Wednesday or Thursday during the week. So I've already missed half the week. Sometimes there's a task that relies or it asks you to kind of work on it every day. And that's hard to do if I've already missed half the week because I'm reading the pages of the chapter later in the week. All that to say, I think I started taking notes and reading this chapter on like Thursday, and I just went crazy on the first page. Like it clicked so much more than last week. And maybe that's just where I'm at. Maybe that's just a progress thing. Maybe it's just a personality thing. Maybe week 6 wasn't my jam. And there's nothing profound really. It's just more things that were clicking and things that I was already doing in my morning pages. And it was like there's a recurring theme here in Artist's Way about synchronicity, and which is basically like serendipity and kind of the coincidence of things happening, and then kind of changing your lens on all that sort of stuff and just viewing it as like the universe connecting with you in a sense. But a lot of the stuff I was already doing in the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning pages was just stuff that was already in the chapter, ready for me to digest. So it was kind of like I was aware of what was going to happen and was already like kind of prepping myself for that, or just a massive coincidence, who knows. But regardless, it was interesting to see the correlation there between where I was kind of at in my journey, in the creative recovery journey, compared to where I should be in terms of the course. But yeah, I'll just read a bunch of notes that I made here, and I guess the things that stood out to me. So it just opens up with chapter 7 talking about the ability to listen and looking at listening as a skill, in particular with our morning pages and our artist dates. So I've talked about this a few times where I can get lost in doing to-do lists and tasks and checklists in my morning pages. And I guess that's listening to myself in some aspect, but just listening to the way the stream of consciousness is flowing out on the page, and then just the way I'm thinking about things when I'm on my artist dates. Yeah, it's just interesting to just try and listen more and be more self-aware of those thoughts and those feelings and working with them as opposed to letting them take over. And then just underneath this, she says, while both of these activities, so the morning pages and the artist dates, are apparently unconnected to the actual act of making art, they are critical to the creative process. So literally like the 4th line in, it's talking about one of the frustrations I was already dealing with, which is I feel like I've been doing the morning pages and the journaling and the weekends out doing creative things and getting inspiration and stimulated, but I've been feeling disconnected from the actual creation process. And she's just saying here they seem unconnected, but they actually are required and critical. It's just a matter of trusting the process. So that was like literally reassuring in the first paragraph of the chapter. And then I think I've mentioned before in a lot of the morning pages, all these sticky notes are for different things. So like orange is an interesting idea or a thought to like further chase down. Then blue is basically little mostly poems, to be honest, and like just little pieces of art that jump out to me. Sometimes I feel myself just getting bored with doing the journaling, and I try to force a poem out of just thin air. And like I feel whilst I'm doing it, it just is, it's not meant to be. It's like not cringy necessarily, but it's like it just doesn't feel genuine or authentic. It's just getting forced out. And then literally as soon as I finish doing the poem, I'll write underneath it, well, that was not what the goal is. Like that you're doing the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. And it's good to recognize that. And that's part of the listening process. And then sometimes I do them with the like completely different intention. They just flow out. They just fall out of me. And whether they're good or bad or whatever is different. But the intention, the thought process from start to finish is so different. And it's so clear whilst in the process that it's different. And then literally the next paragraph down, she says, if we are trying to think something up, we are straining to reach for something that's beyond our grasp. So basically, when we're trying to think things up, we're forcing, we're straining to like create something that's not within our grasp. There's like the creativity's coming elsewhere a lot of the times. But if we just get something down, there is no strain. We're not doing, we're getting. So when I'm trying to think of something and trying to think of a poem just because I'm kind of bored and I'm trying to like make art, it never works. It never like it feels good in the process, and the outcomes never feels good either. And then the ones where I'm just getting something down, where it's just flowing and I'm not really doing it, I'm just getting it out, feels so much more natural. And like it's just crazy. These things that I'm thinking of and dealing with, and I'm just like grappling with them every morning, is just starting to all come out with the wash. And not to say that's going to be resolved immediately, but it's giving me more confidence in the course because things are clicking a little bit more. And then there's another part here that was quite interesting about kind of surrendering to the plan. She says, when an actor is in the moment, he or she is engaged in listening for the next right thing creatively. When a painter is painting, he or she may begin with a plan, but that plan is soon surrendered to the painting's own plan. So this idea that the art will transform itself and do away with your initial plan. So it's kind of just being willing and open to letting the art take over, like beyond what you had planned. And like I deal with that all the time. Whether it's in the pages or even like doing Substack posts and everything, I have this plan. I think it's good in advance and this strategy that's going to work. And then as soon as I start creating the thing, the real truth about how it should exist kind of just takes over and transforms it. So again, something that just another click, literally on the first page. So yeah, the whole page is basically just like addressing things that I'm already dealing with. And it's given me confidence to just trust in myself and trust in my intuition that although I might not be creating a bunch of awesome stuff right now, I'm working through the journey and the process as intended. And that's rewarding in and of itself. And then the next part of the chapter is about perfectionism. I feel like I've touched on this so many times in the last 6 or 7 weeks. I feel like if you create anything, you're probably aware of perfectionism, whether you grapple with it or not. It's kind of just a common hallmark type of thing with creativity, I suppose. Yeah, I didn't really make any notes. And just as a point about comparison here, and it ties into perfectionism as well. She says, we've all heard that the unexamined life is not worth living, but consider too that the unlived life is not worth examining. The success of a creative recovery hinges on our ability to move out of the head and into action. And then she follows a bit further down. We don't compare our student films to George Lucas's student films. Instead, we compare them to Star Wars. So, like, I know I've dealt with it a bunch of times trying to like have the perfect angle or the perfect B-roll or the perfect music to support a video or something. And my level 1, I'm trying to compare with, for example, like a Casey Neistat's level 10 in terms of his talent, his skill set, his knowledge, his resources. So comparing your level 1 to someone else's level 10 is just like the most ludicrous thing ever, but we like do it all the time. So rather than comparing my level 1 to their level 10, you compare your level 1 to their level 1 if you want to draw a comparison. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing that we don't think of the people we admire when they're at the beginning stages of their journey. We always like look at them and admire them for where they are, not where they sort of came from a lot of the time. And it didn't really make a whole bunch more notes for the rest of the chapter. Honestly, it was still quite a small chapter. I think they're all pretty small. They're only like 6 or 7 pages a lot of the time, and then you just do your tasks afterwards. So let me get on to the actual check-in part. So how many days this week did you do your morning pages? Have you allowed yourself to daydream a few creative risks? So I only did 5 days of morning pages this week. No excuse other than just get lazy, and then the afternoon rolls around and I'm still just trapped in prioritizing work and other things that aren't really helping the creative recovery. I feel like I'm making progress, especially with this week. But in terms of like an excuse for why not doing 7, it's just not being the top number 1 priority when it should be, or at least number 1 or 2. Anyway, I'll do my best to hit 7 days this week. On the Monday, before, like again, I started doing the tasks. I started doing the chapter on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. So I had a few days of journaling, of like getting things out before I knew what the chapter was about. So on the Monday, I just kind of had this 4-page, even 5 pages of just spilling my guts about my connection with music as a creative endeavor, and just something I've always kind of had since high school, like my first like creative thing I've connected with. And it's so funny because I just like had 1.5 pages of just dribble here on Monday morning. Then I'm like, let me think about YouTube for a bit. That's all I'm really thinking about at the moment. And then I just went into 5 pages of talking about just music, stuff I hadn't really thought of, and it just kind of flowed out. So that was just an insane spewing or like divulgence. I don't have any words tonight. Of just thoughts. I just literally wrote at the end of it. That was the easiest flow of release in the morning pages so far. And I just like dove into like what music is, why I like value it so highly, kind of thinking about my dreams and aspirations with it and my connection with it through high school, through after high school, through university, and even into like adulthood. And yeah, I don't know if I really have time to get into it here, but having music in I enjoyed music. I used to enjoy creating it a lot, but I think that I was actually using it to like hide a lot of the time. So I just wrote like the kind of summary notes of the 5 pages of spewing about music. I just wrote, I think I might have used music as a way to avoid discipline, discomfort, and decisions. Avoidance disguised as curiosity, which I used to just dabble in it. So basically, for context, I would just get home from school or work or something and just like goof around in my room by myself, just playing guitar or making music and beats and things on my computer. And I guess during the entire time that I would do that, I wasn't looking for like career advancements or personal development advancements or just like anything related to discipline or discomfort or growth. I would just like kind of be stuck in the 9 to 5, come home, make music, rinse and repeat, thinking that it would get me somewhere. But in hindsight, I'd never really put that much effort into making better music or learning new skills or any research. It was just dabbling and playing like a video game over and over, and never really completing songs or releasing them or anything like that. And it wasn't because I was necessarily fearful of putting a song out there and getting criticized or anything. It was just literally could not finish a song. Perfectionism. Nothing was ever like felt complete to where I would want to like move on to the next thing. So I'd just get stuck in these loops for 6 months or 12 months, just working on the same 5 to 10 songs and never really trying to grow or learn. And hence why I did this 5-page journaling about it, because I feel like looking back on it, I was just dabbling and never really taking it seriously. And I think I use that as a way to just hide from the other like life discomforts. And it's funny because the last 4 or 5 years since working for myself, I haven't really done any music at all as a hobby. I play guitar a little bit. Like I got a guitar like 12 months ago for my birthday because I felt like I needed to bring music back into my life, and I was interested in it for a few months. Played it for 5-10 minutes in the evenings as a kind of relaxing thing, but nothing that serious. I'm not trying to like learn new songs or chord progressions or running scales or anything. I just don't really want to have it as an evening or a daily hobby where I'm chipping away at it, trying to get skillful and masterful at it. And I think that entire time it was just using it as a disguise. But the point I was trying to make was the last 4 or 5 years since doing the business full time and trying to do content and stuff, it's been probably the biggest development in my resilience and my mindset and my personal growth and everything like that. And I don't know if it's a causation thing or it's just a correlation that I wasn't sort of wasting time dabbling in something that I wasn't really passionate about. It was just like a time filler. So that was a huge kind of revelation for me that I hadn't thought of before. And I'm trying to like not burn that bridge in terms of forgetting about that dream necessarily, but realizing the place that it held in my life, and it probably won't hold the place in my life going forward in the future. Like I shouldn't revere it like I used to. Comparing that to YouTube, for example, I might not be putting out a ton of videos or super high quality productions or storytelling or anything like that, but the amount of effort that I put into YouTube and strategizing and learning about cameras and gears and editing, tenfold different to what I ever did to music. So then I'm like, well, I should be doing YouTube and video production more seriously because clearly I'm interested in it. I've dabbled in and out of it for almost 7 or 8 years now. Yeah, it's night and day difference compared to how much effort I used to put into music. So that was a huge unlock for me during the week. Probably the biggest thing for the week for me. And it's just realizing there was a reason and a season, and I've moved past that now. So that was really cool. That was a really cool thing. A bunch of notes here in the morning pages, just kind of random poems and nothing else that really truly stands out as like moving the needle. Tons of ideas for little blog posts and video ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the morning pages. So yeah, I did 5 of the 7 days. The artist date for the week didn't go to plan. It just didn't go to plan. Saturday, I just wanted to go for a hike. The plan was just to drive up into the Blue Mountains, which is about an hour and a half away, and just go for a hike, just get out for the day, essentially, away from home and away from the city. So I got up at like 5 o'clock, which is usually my normal wake up time. But yeah, just left at about 5:45 and drove in the dark, which was just a really nice experience. I actually was just taking voice notes along the way about how I was feeling and what like I wanted to do for the day. But the whole goal was just like to go out, just go for a road trip and then go for a hike and then just drive home just in complete silence. No music, no nothing, just like let my mind wander. Have a nice coffee and everything like that. The drive was awesome, super chill. I really enjoyed just like driving in the dark because there's no cars around and I don't really drive that much. I probably drive for a total of 1 hour a week, probably 2 hours a week. So it was just nice to just be in the car by myself, just have silence, no computers, no devices, no nothing, and just drive. But when I got there, half the roads were closed to like all the hikes and the trails that I wanted to go on. And then it was just like ridiculously windy anyway. So I didn't want to like just get chapped to lips for 2 hours. So I thought I'd just drive for another hour. So it ended up being like a 4 hour, actually, was it an hour and a half, 3? It might have been 5 hours. I got home at like midday. And yeah, just drove for a few hours. If you had asked me at the start of the course, do you want to go on an artist date for a road trip for half the morning? Probably not. But it was actually quite therapeutic. I enjoyed it a lot. Not something I do all the time, but just something that was nice to like just reset myself for the day. And I'm glad I did it that early as well, because as soon as the drive back with the traffic was like, this, I remember why I hate driving in traffic. So yeah, there was something, I guess, meditative about driving in the dark in the morning with like no music and just a nice hot coffee and away from the city as well. So that makes a big difference. When you're driving towards the city, obviously the traffic gets worse as you go along. So that was the art estate. Pretty uneventful, nothing really inspirational or profound to come out of that. The rest of the day was kind of in the same vein of the art estate anyway. So following on from last week, where it's about luxury and self-care and treating yourself and spoiling yourself a little bit, I thought I'd go to Bunnings, the hardware store, and just get a few plants. I got a little curly bamboo thing for the back there. I just got a few things to tidy up the patio and make the back garden a little bit nicer. And I suppose that was kind of artistic in a way, like doing a bit of, not interior design, but outdoor design. Moving things around was kind of just nice to reorganize things. So I suppose it was like a 2-in-1 kind of day for the art estate. But that's what I got up to. And in terms of the tasks for the week, all right, so the first task is called Sacred Space, and it says, take yourself into a sacred space and allow yourself to savor the silence and healing solitude. So this is what I mean by synchronicity. This is just so interesting how these things are lining up for me. I don't know if this is how other people experience this or not, but I do my art estates on a Saturday, and I do the tasks. I come through all on a Sunday morning and do them. And so I obviously did the silent road trip on the Saturday, and then the following day doing the task, it says, take yourself to a sacred space and allow yourself to savor the silence. I'm like, well, that's literally what I did. Little did I know my sacred space might be the car by myself. Who knows? Because it could be. I do feel claustrophobic a lot of the time and caged in, because I do work for myself from home. I don't have a ton of engagement from society because I work from home and go and get coffee and do the groceries, but I'm not mingling with different colleagues and stuff like that every single day. Anywhere away from home that's relaxing and comforting and takes me away from the work and the productivity and everything is essentially a sacred space for me to just chill out and zone out. So it kind of just literally just lined up perfectly. So I just wrote some notes there about taking myself somewhere healing, and that turns out to be the car. So that was just wild coincidence. So this next task is about your 5 favorite topics to read. So basically your 5 favorite types of books to read. I wrote art, health, history, science, business, philosophy, psychology, science fiction, and personal development. That's more than 5. I don't know why I wrote. I must have just went wild and wrote 8 or something. And this is another task that had synchronicity attached. So this one says to create a good smell. So create one wonderful smell in your house with soup, incense, fir branches, candles, or whatever. And on the Saturday evening, I ordered a bunch of candles because we have like a 3-tier, I wouldn't call it gothic, it's just like a 3-tier candle holder, and it hasn't had any candles on it for 18 months. And it's sitting there, and while I was doing the garden and stuff on Saturday, I'm like, I'll get some candles to finally put there. Not that we'll use them, but they will smell a little bit nicer, or make them, hopefully anyway. I literally went to do this task on Sunday, and I had done that beforehand. And actually on the Sunday morning for the grocery shop for the week, we bought 2 little Airwick, what are they, like essential oil diffuser things that we've got one in each bathroom, and they've been out for like 3 weeks. So the morning before I did the task, I'd already bought candles, and I already bought like the essential oil diffusers. And I'm just like, what are the odds? Like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Funny, but crazy, interesting. I'm sure it's not that significant, but that was another task that I did for the week. Inadvertently, I'd already just done it. So it saves a bit of hassle. There was another task here that says buy yourself something wonderful, like a pair of socks, one wonderful pair of gloves, one wonderfully comforting, self-loving something. And it's not crazy, but I just bought a little curly bamboo for the room. I think it's good luck, so we'll keep it here in sight for future luck. And the last task is about a collage. Now, I think this is like a recurring task from weeks ago. And it's essentially like making a collage, like a mood board type of thing. Not my jam necessarily, but it's come up a few times. The tasks that I did this week didn't seem that substantial, and I feel like I had already done them, as I just mentioned with a couple of the candles and the plant. So I'm like, you know what, I will start a collage. This week just says collect a stack of 10 magazines that you can freely dismember, take 20 minutes and basically mash them together. Because I did it on Sunday, obviously I don't have time to go and buy a bunch of old vintage magazines to cut out of. So I just went into Photoshop, started a big new template, and just started hunting around the internet for just interesting little things that captured my attention, and just copy and pasting them and kind of just doing my own little mood board in that sense. And that was a fun activity just to get out of the normal stuff that I see. You know, I see social media websites and Google and my four walls. I don't really see that much interesting creativity on the regular every single day. So finding a few websites that kind of curations of different people that are saving graphic designs and photos and just different types of art, just using that and subscribing to that and just checking into that once or twice a week to get new interesting ideas was really helpful immediately. And so I'm going to have like a running Photoshop file where I update that maybe every quarter or something with just different fonts and graphics and color schemes, just to get my brain thinking outside of the normal algorithm and everything that I see on a day-to-day basis. So that is week 7 of The Artist's Way. I'll be back next week for the week 8 check-in.